Good evening, everyone, from Children of the Setting Sun Productions, One from the Heart. Friday, May 1st. We hope everyone's well, staying healthy, eating healthy. We're thankful you could join us this evening. We're excited about tonight. We're going to check in with education leaders to learn of changes to the school year, plans for commencement, and what's in store for next year. Also, we're going to enjoy the glass artwork produced by Lummi Tribal member Dan Friday. My name is Jay Julius, Watatlam, son of Snat. I am from the Lummi Nation and very excited and glad that these guests could join us tonight. Mr. Villers, Mrs. Linda Quinn, Mr. Guillory, Dan Friday, and Sadie Olsen. First of all, we'd like to open up in a good way, as we always do. We're going to ask Sadie Olsen to open us up with a song in a good way. Thank you, Sadie, and welcome.
Feishka Kwasamat Sanasnat Cha Uklamisan Sahanap E Kusamat Sani E Aling Karen E Virgil Sanasosila Soitsin Ohiluk Quinis Asla Atiakaias Nuchchisin Maqualia Quinis Inatachal Nastli Quinis Qual Apoquino Squal Outsin Kachit Sa Uklamichasin E Utatasin Quinis Twinaus. Hello, my dear friends and relatives. My name is Sadie Olsen. I am from Lummi. Troy Olsen and Shirley Williams are my parents, and Karen Williams and Virgil Williams are my grandparents. I'm happy to see all of you here today, and I just wanted to say a few words. I don't know the Lummi language, and I'm still learning how to speak it. I'm going to be singing the Swan Song, which is the family song. If you see right here, I have two swans on my wall. So I come from the house of the Swan family. Oh, 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 yeah. Qualita, sulalita, aheya, heya. Qualita, sololita, aheya, haya, haya, oh, heya, oh, yeah. Bonita, sulalita, aheya, heya, bonita, sololita, aheya, haya, haya, oh, heya. Ghost, fires, Tasman, hooray. 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 Oh, oh, he-oh, hey. Oh, so, he-oh, hey. Oh, 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 yeah. Quilnita, solalitza, aheya, heya. Quilnita, solalitza, aheya. Haya, haya, oh, heya. Aishka, Atia, and Strike. Thank you for your good work. I also want to add that I'm a co-founder of White Swan Environmental with my parents, Troy Olsen and Shirley Williams. And our long-term vision is to have 7 longhouses in the San Juan Islands and 7 longhouses in the Gulf Islands for our K through PhD, Mountain to Sea, Reef to Reef, Coast Salish Tribal Heritage Field Institute.
Awesome. Beautiful, Sadie. Thank you. And we're going to invite you back um, towards the end of the show after Mr. Villers later on in the evening. Thank you for the beautiful song. Thank you for your words. I'm excited about tonight. Excited to hear from our educators, our leaders in education, just to hear how things are going and the change that we've all faced. I think all of us have faced changes in our lives, our normal day-to-day routines and school and work and jobs. And if jobs are open back up, what about the kids going to school? That's a big concern on parents and even children's minds. So I'm excited to have this conversation with these education leaders tonight. Want to first give a shout out, hands up, and a big thank you from Setting Sun Productions and one from the heart to all of the frontline workers, everyone who is working to continue to provide food to the homes, the Commod Squad, Commodity Foods, the school districts, all of the school districts for providing meals, tens of thousands of meals every week. The doctors, the nurses, just hands up to everyone, and so thankful. And I think most important, we need to continue to practice safe distancing and acknowledge what our leaders, listen to what our leaders have put into place, because it's for our elders' good, it's for our youth's good, it's for all of our own good to keep us all safe, keep our community safe. I want to send some thoughts and prayers out to a friend of mine in California on the Pechanga Reservation who just had services for a family member of his today who just passed on from the coronavirus. Our hearts are going out to his family. So it is serious, family and friends, and we have to take this serious, and we need to be as safe as we can be. For some of us, some of the young might think they're not vulnerable, or my age bracket not vulnerable, but really it's if we're carriers and if we're affected by it, and we pass it on to an elder who's very vulnerable, or someone who is ill, or a child that is vulnerable, the consequences are severe, and we just need to keep that in mind as we, I know we're all getting anxious with the sun coming out and being inside, but we can't stress enough that we need to protect the lives of everyone. And so hands up to all of the frontline workers and everyone who is out there making that sacrifice for all of the greater good. Thank you, and thank you for abiding by the orders put out by our tribal leaders, our state leaders, and thank you to all the leaders for continuing to serve, to be in the front line as well, keeping us all safe and doing the best you can. Estitumsen, Haishka. So tonight, thank you all. Thank you to the guests for joining us this evening at One from the Heart. First, so the guests tonight are Kevin Villers from the Lummi Nation School. He is the principal there. We have Linda Quinn, who is Ferndale School District Superintendent. Thank you. We have Justin Guillory, the Northwest Indian College President. Thank you for being here. We have Dan Friday, who is a glass sculptor. Dan Friday, tribal member from Lummi, glass sculptor. His artwork is unbelievable. I just had an opportunity to take a look, and Justin and Mr. Guillory and I and Dan and everyone here were having a conversation about some of the work that he donated for the upcoming event that is important for the Northwest Indian College, and unfortunately had to be postponed or canceled, which is critical for the college every year. And But Dan, want to thank you for helping out with the college with your beautiful artwork. And then we have Sadie Olsen. You just heard her beautiful song, and later on in the show, she's going to share a little bit about what she's doing and have a little message for the youth. And I love how she focuses on the positive during these times of uncertainty. She could share with us how she focuses on the positive during uncertain times. I really love that and loved what you shared, Sadie. Thank you for that, because I think that's important for all of us to hear and to implement into our own lives. Thank you. So, welcome everyone again from Setting Sun Productions, One from the Heart. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us. Sadie, thank you for the opening song. First of all, I want to introduce Dan Friday. As I stated earlier, he's a Lummi tribal member, wonderful sculptures, and does beautiful work. Just want to touch base with you, Dan. You're down near Seattle, and wanted to see how you're doing and the challenges you're facing, the challenges you're overcoming, and some of the things you're doing right now.
Hi, Scott. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
I'm staying busy in my studio. Fortunately, I have a studio attached building on my property I can work from. I have had to put a lot of things on hold. I had a turn in New York this month, and some of the programs I work with have been put on hold. The Hilltop Artists, the Lummi Outreach Program with the Lummi Youth Academy in the high school. We have a thing we do at the Glass School, and that was supposed to be in May, but as we just heard today, everything's been extended again, another phase 3 is what I heard. But staying busy, and if you don't have a garden, hopefully you have a studio or some time to invest in yourself in this little time to brush up on some of the things you haven't been able to work with. So I'm staying busy, absolutely, but it is definitely a change for everybody. And I know that I've got some first world problems, that I can't make my art work the way I want to, but I'm grateful that I do have it, because it's where I can pour my energy and my heart into.
Awesome. Yeah, you can't see it, but everyone's getting the opportunity right now to see some of your beautiful work. I had a green thumb the other day. I've since all this has been going on, I've had the opportunity to build a fence that has taken me 10 years to build. Done a lot of beautiful yard work and a lot of clearing on the property. And my thumb literally turned green, but that's because I was I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning, one of those infomercials where you can spray this stuff on your lawn and it magically turns green. So I ordered some up and didn't realize you had to take the bag out. I just hooked it up to my hose, and both my hands turned pure green. So I did have a green thumb for a little bit,
Green hands,
but not for the right reason. Well, thank you, Dan. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. Your work right now, I could see the ReefNet anchor. Man, that is unbelievably awesome.
Well,
Just great work, and thank you for sharing a little bit. Anything else you want to share with the audience?
I guess I think we're all kind of going through this, and like I said, for me, how I process a lot of my stuff is with my artwork, and hopefully people can find that outlet, if it's in the garden or if it's in whatever you do, singing or studio. I mean, this would be a great time to learn a new language, right? Or just I hope everybody's staying safe and sane too, because it's not easy, just the unknown.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for your beautiful work and sharing that for the world to see, and incorporating our culture and our history in that. Paishka, for being here.
Absolutely.
All right. Our next guest this evening is Dr. Justin Guillory. He is the Northwest Indian College President. Um, Good evening, Mr. Guillory, and welcome, and thank you for joining us. As we stated in the beginning, we're here to check in with education leaders to learn of the changes to the school year, plans for commencement, and what's in store for next year. Care to share where you guys, where the college is at right now, kind of what the changes have been, and how the students are getting through this year, through these times of uncertainty?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. And also just want to thank Daryl Blair for the kind of invitation, and thank you, Jay, for helping to facilitate, and appreciate all of the guests and the staff for putting on this event, and for giving us an opportunity to talk about education at Northwest Indian College. So yeah, it's certainly been, we've all been impacted by the COVID-19 process. And one thing I just I certainly want to share is that just adjusting to this new normal. The obvious one is just with the initial rush of moving away from work, and the obvious things of establishing a new routine. And so that's been, I think, the biggest adjustment of we worked very quickly to work from home. And I guess speaking of phases, and it seems like the past, I don't know, 6-7 weeks have gone incredibly fast, or glacially slow, just depending on perspective. But so speaking of phases, and we've had a chance to kind of gather our bearings a little bit. But phase one, as would describe it as a pre-closure, a preparation phase. And so that was early March. And so that was there's increasing news and media reports of a possibility of a breakout. And so at the college, we were just really getting ready for the possibility of a breakout. And as you recall, Washington State, or the King County, was the kind of epicenter. And so we had a little bit of time to prepare. And I just want to briefly just give a big thank you and a shout out to the Lummi Public Health team, Dr. Lane, Dr. Toledo, Dr. Iwasaki, and LIBC, the leaders. They've been doing an extraordinary job, and they were very proactive in helping to set up emergency response team. And so at the college, being part of the community, so we were just getting ready for the asking questions such as COVID-19 and how does it spread, and at that time we were focusing on more prevention. And so and then things really started to change when LIBC declared a public health emergency, as you recall. So that was March 3rd. So that's when it became real. The threat was real. There was this red alert. But at that time, again, early March, there was no COVID-19 cases. But we started to take action at the college. Employee student travel was prohibited. Many events and conferences, like, for example, our annual Talonic event, which is a big fundraiser for us, that was postponed, and some things were canceled, such as our Weavers Teaching Weavers. And so, and also we really focus on all staff meetings, and also one detail I want to share with our audience is, of course, we're chartered by the Lummi Nation, and main campus is at Lummi, but we have 6 extended campus sites. So we serve tribal communities all over the Northwest, but we have satellite campuses at Swinomish, Tulalip, Port Gamble, Squalum, Muckleshoot, and Nisqually, and then the Nez Perce site where I'm from. So we were paying attention to multiple details, and not just how this would impact us in Whatcom County, but our extended campus sites. So, and then we shifted to phase 2, and that's what I would describe our emergency campus closure. So that was mid-March, and that's when the first positive COVID-19 case was in Whatcom County. And so we accelerated our efforts. Everyone shifted immediately. I gave the directive to our staff and faculty to work remotely from home. Our students, we had to complete the winter quarter. The end of winter quarter was scheduled to end on Friday, March 27th. And so we accelerate our efforts to adjust to home. And our faculty completed the rest of the winter quarter online courses. And then also we were now prepared for spring quarter, and spring quarter was delayed. Normally it would have started on Monday, April 6th, but we delayed it a week to Monday, April 13th. And so there was a number of things happening again during that time. And just one other detail, and was during this time, there was the CARES Act, right? The stimulus funding budget process was happening. So at the college, we were just focusing on health and safety, prioritizing our students and our employees. And then, but there are multiple things happening concurrently. And so we, as a tribal college, as a member of AHEC, the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, which comprised of 37 tribal colleges, we had to also submit an estimated budget impact. So it was really hard because when you're in a crisis and having to project what the budget impact is going to be while it's happening in real time, that was really difficult. But again, credit to our team, did a good job of being responsive. And in fact, our template, the college's template, how we use data and information, was actually the template that was used for all tribal colleges that was ultimately submitted to Congress as part of the AHEC Tribal College Relief Package. Again, there's more details. Jay, I don't know if you want me to continue to elaborate, but and now we're basically in phase 3, what I'm kind of informally calling adjusting to what we're calling a new normal. And phase 3 is early April through June. So it's getting through winter quarter. And then now we're in the spring quarter. And then one important detail that I wanted to mention that is also maybe relevant to with Dr. Quinn with the school district and also with Kevin with the Ferndale School District and Elimination School, is we made a rush decision at that time to close. The first closure was for 4 weeks from Friday, March 13th until basically on Monday, April 13th. That was the first closure. And then later on, I think on that same Friday, the Ferndale School District and Elimination School, they announced a longer closure. And then there was another detail of the shelter in place that was declared. And so there's just multiple uncertainty decisions. And then as from a leadership perspective, we were just, again, trying to prioritize the safety and health of our employees and students, and really having the confidence of making decisions without all of the facts in uncertain times, but just saying, we're just going to give ourselves permission to make decisions. And that's why one of my favorite quotes is never let a crisis go to waste. When those things happen, of course, it's worrisome. It's a very real threat and crisis. But at the same time, the college has long planned to expand our distance learning online capabilities. And we're in the middle of basically a 5-year plan. We accomplished that in 5 weeks, So that was, I guess, a silver lining is accelerated our efforts, and that's what we're focusing on right now. So I'll just pause there. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Guillory. Any words of encouragement to the youth, to students, before we move on to the next guest? I think he froze. Well, thank you, Dr. Guillory, and stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our next guest this evening is Dr. Linda Quinn, Ferndale School Superintendent at Ferndale School District. Welcome, Linda, and thank you for joining us here at One from the Heart this evening. As I stated with the first couple of guests, we're here this evening to check in with education leaders to learn of changes to the school year and plans for commencement. Please share where Ferndale School District is, how you've adjusted to all of this, and any updates you'd like to give.
Thank you, Mr. Guillory and Mr. Hilaire and Mr. Julius for having me here today. My story is a lot like Dr. Guillory's. We had to pivot on a moment's notice and become a different kind of organization with 4,600 students and 750 employees. And I'm really, it's not perfect, but I'm really proud of our employees and the way they've risen to the occasion. We had 6 priorities when all of this hit. Of course, safety was number one, but after that, we were working on getting meals to students, and we started a meal delivery program within 3 days of the closure, and we're still delivering about 10,000, just shy of 10,000 meals a week to 44 locations. We're using schools, bus stops, and some home deliveries. So meals was our second priority after health and safety. Childcare for essential workers was our third priority. We got that up and going by the second week. And we are partnering with the YMCA, providing facilities and some support, but using their childcare providers. The third priority was to make sure that we had meaningful work for all 700 and some employees, because we wanted to be able to continue to employ them and pay them, and that was part of what the state offered as support to us, is if that we gave them work, they would continue to get their paychecks. So for that work has included the meal preparation, the meal delivery, childcare, but also our governor has allowed that public service could be meaningful work for public employees during a crisis. So some of our para-educators have been sewing masks and working with other kinds of food distribution programs and all kinds of things. The final priority, well, no, the second to the final, the fifth priority was to get continuous learning going for our students. We sent out some suggestions to keep kids busy for the first week or so, but starting April 13th, all of our teachers are sending out learning packets every week, either hopefully with most kids, a lot of kids via the internet, because it's a little less cumbersome for kids, but for kids who don't have them, and our younger students, we're making paper copies of the lessons, and we're also using our food delivery pickups to deliver some of those packets and to pick up the things that kids want to return to us. The first week, all of our elementary K-5 students received a packet in the mail from their teachers, but after that, we're trying to cut down on that amount of paper. And the fifth priority is to take care of seniors. Sadie, it's nice to see you here. But, I started my career teaching 12th grade English, and I spent quite a few years with seniors, and I know how important this year is. And so it brings tears to my eyes to, think about the senior class on a moment's notice was done with school. And they didn't in-person school, not done with school. We've had lots of school for them, but there wasn't a lot of chance to say goodbye and do all the things that are important in the senior year. So number one, I mean, obviously we want to take care of all of our kids, but had a special emphasis on making sure our seniors were able to complete the year and continue to their post-high school plans, that we didn't interrupt those, that we gave them whatever support they needed. I was on a Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you were on that, Sadie, but with ASB officers and some other elected and the high school principals, talking about what is possible. The kids, of course, want an in-person graduation and commencement ceremony, and I want that for them too. But we ended up with a both and instead of either or kind of decision. So the both and is we're going to have both a virtual commencement while at the time when school will be over for seniors, but then we are definitely going to have something in person at some point. It it might be August, maybe probably. I think we said we would um, try to reserve something starting the first week in August and look at when the state opens up. But if not August, then when kids, maybe the first Saturday of winter break when most students are home, so we can do that. We're also talking about what other things we can do for our seniors. New traditions, since we can't do all the old traditions. I had a meeting yesterday with the mayor of Ferndale and the city manager and the police chief and the fire chief, and to talk about. I know the kids brought up the idea of doing some kind of parade in cars, something, something fancy and big but safe. And so I have the police chief and the fire chief both on board to help plan something that will um, be in cars at the end of the year. Uh, like Dr. Guillory talked about, we made a very abrupt um, pivot to do distance learning. And even though we've been a one-to-one district where each child has a device, we've been a little slow to really transition to, I mean, we haven't, well, we don't want to be a distance learning institution in the long run, but our teachers are working hard to get things out. A couple weeks ago, we opened up. I was a little nervous at first, but we opened up Zoom meetings and told them there's some new safety features that they could have Zoom meetings with their classes at all grade levels. And I've gotten some really wonderful stories about kindergartners all dancing together and showing each other their stuffed animals and their pets. And it works, but the unfortunate thing is, this has really shown a light on some of the inequities in terms of connectivity. And so I'm very concerned about that and not wanting, I don't want to leave anyone out. But anyway, it's been a lot of hard work. It's been exhilarating to see our staff come together in new ways and exhibit new kind of teamwork. I know it's not perfect, but people are working really hard and they really care about kids. And I guess I would leave with a message to kids. We're sending out this work and we hope you do it, but it isn't the most important thing right now. The most important thing right now is stay healthy, stay mentally healthy, stay connected, get ready for what comes next, and we'll help you catch up when you get back.
Thank you, Linda. Linda, a couple of weeks ago on One from the Heart, we had some conversation with coaches, and Jerome Toby, Anna Finkbonner, Jake Locker, just some really good conversation. And I shared with Jake a conversation I had with a Ferndale student who is a tribal member from Lummi Nation and has dreams of going on to run track for Oregon State. That's his ultimate goal. Works hard, practices, trains. But what was interesting is when he was sharing that, he said he may transfer. He may have to transfer schools because there was this uncertainty of, and the reason I bring this up is I think this pandemic and uncertainty we're in right now, and what the students are facing, this anxiety that we as adults might not see that they're feeling, whether it's the education part, sports part, being near friends, having those really close relationships through the school year and then abruptly stopped. But this athlete was concerned, or the perception of the levy. And this individual athlete had a perception of the levy that if this levy doesn't pass, then there's a chance that we won't have a track team. Now, whether there's whether that's 100% true or not, I just wanted to ask you, has this, what we're going through right now, shed light on some of the realities that were talked about before this levy went to vote, and the importance of getting this levy vote out? I'm not sure. I know it's been postponed, but would you care to share anything, just on an educational on what it is? I know it's a replacement. Jake did a great job of stressing that it's not an increase in taxes. It's replacing an existing that is falling off, or it's actually a replacement. But for students who are athletes, for students who are in band, for students who run track, for students who may not have a complete understanding but are experiencing this anxiety. This is just one student that I spoke with, and it just randomly came up. But can you give some clarification on the importance of this?
Well, I would love to, Jay. I didn't mention it, but in addition to dealing with the global pandemic, the Ferndale School District is also dealing with another really, really hard thing, and that is that our levy didn't pass in February. All districts in the state uh, rely on levy funds for somewhere between 15 and 20% of everything that they do. It's not funded by the state. So we ran the election on um, February 11th. I think there was some confusion. We just passed a bond. uh, short, just a short explanation. A bond is not a levy. A bond is like the mortgage on your house. You take out the, the you get all the money at once. It's for a building. You can't use it for ongoing expenses. But when we passed a bond and then came back for a levy, I think that confused a lot of people. The levy is a replacement. You run a levy for a certain number of years, and when those years run out, the voters have to renew it or it goes away. So in February, um, our levy only got about 45% yes vote. We needed 50 to pass. That levy contributes about $13 million a year of our budget, which is about a $78 million budget. So that's a big proportion. And it pays for certain things like activities and athletics. However, we are allowed one more chance to rerun the levy, and before the pandemic, we were scheduled to go back out and ask our voters to reconsider, once they saw what was going to be cut, to reconsider approving the levy on April 28th. If you know the calendar, we ended up closing down schools on March 16th. We were in a stay-at-home order. Our board decided that was just the wrong time to rerun the levy. So the two other choices in this calendar year are August 6th and November 3rd. The board has decided to rerun the levy on November 3rd, which hopefully it will pass, and um, we'll be able to restore things. The problem is that's before we have to do all our budgeting for next year. So the very sad news is that we are having to reduce our staff by about 80. Well, we are putting out about 85 layoff notices in the next few days. And when we talk to people I'm getting to the point of the sports, but when we talk to people when the levy failed and told them what the levy paid for, it does pay for all of the district's portion of athletics and activities. It pays for more than half of the counselors we have. But since all of this happened, and everything that's happened with kids, the board and I and our administrative team have had a lot of conversations about athletics, and we've decided that we have to figure out a way, athletics and activities, to be able to continue those um, at least through the fall, and hoping that the voters will renew the levy so that we're safe for the whole year. But we just can't take those activities away from kids. We know for a fact that success in school is tied so closely to what students are passionate about and are involved in. We're probably to do that. I guess if there's any silver lining to the pandemic, we saved some money by not running spring sports this year because we couldn't run spring sports. So we saved some money there. We we will probably have to go back. A lot of districts have a pay to play for those who can afford it. Um, we're probably going to have to go back and have some kind of pay to play for those who can afford it, and scholarships for those who can't. Um, we're going to be looking at what ASB can contribute, what the boosters might be able to contribute. But we are going to do everything we can, if we're allowed to have sports in the fall, to have sports in the fall. But we really need the levy to pass in November. As Jake explained, you said it is a replacement. It's not a new tax. People are paying that tax now. It runs out on December 31st, 2020. If we don't renew on November 3rd, 2020, we won't have any money starting January 1st. If we renew it in November, we'll get our money in January. So thank you for letting me talk about that. It really is critical, but we just can't take sports and activities away from kids in the fall. So we're going to figure that out.
For the audience, for the listeners, and for the community here, and the all of Whatcom County community, we need students like Sadie and
Yeah.
recent graduates like my son, and you know, to get educated on this and share. And Jake is obviously a former student and knows the importance of the activities and everything that's involved with this. So thank you for sharing that, and hopefully get the word out, and hope for the best outcome for the future students of the district. Thank you for joining us tonight, Linda. We really appreciate you, and thank you for updating us here. Haishka. All right, our next guest, Mr. Kevin Villers, Lummi Nation School Principal. Mr. Villers, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you all for being a part of the front line, taking care of our students, our children, being leaders of education for our kids. Mr. Villers, thank you for joining us. Could you please share how things are going at Lummi Nation School, and how you guys are adjusting, and some of the adjustments made?
Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Daryl. It's been a crazy year, to say the least. It's my first year principal at the Lummi Nation School, so you're learning a lot of different things, and so when this thing hit, you had to go from being a student of trying how to be a principal to let's survive this pandemic as best we can, and our staff did an amazing job. When we first started hearing about the COVID-19, and we kind of thought something might happen, so there was a time before the closure. I think it was early, about the first week of March, around there. I bought everybody dinner, and we stayed behind, and we had a deep cleaning. So we were just trying to stay ahead of this at every step. So, and that kind of worked out, and we just made sure that we had hand sanitizers at the door right before there was any mention of any closure. So we were just trying to be safe that way. And in addition to that, we had told the teachers, it possibly, if this keeps growing, we could possibly close. So to start preparing work in case of closure. And so when we when it did close, we actually closed. When did we close? We closed the 13th of March, and then on the 16th, we had work ready, and we were able to provide work and meals on the 16th. So I have to thank my staff because they were on top of it. We were able to get that early workout and those meals on that first day, which would have been the 16th. That first full week would start Monday was the 16th. So I have an amazing staff, and they've been all of them are amazing. But I want to point out we have 6, 7 new staff members, but we have there are 5 staff members that are new first-year staff members, and they are coming to work and helping us with food prep every week. I just think that's amazing because in doing this crisis, they could easily just stay home and they could disappear because they're first-year people, and they just chose not to. And I just think it's amazing. And their names are Mrs. Lydia Moe, Miss Evelyn Brown, Mr. Robert Z. Singh, Miss Jennifer Bushman, and Miss Kathy Johnson. I have to just take my hat off to those first-year people. And like I said, the rest of our staff is amazing because I couldn't do it without them. So yeah, like I said, that first day on the 16th, we had work and meals out, and then we had a second round of work go out on the 31st. And we had kind of, when this thing kind of hit, we planned for a long time. We just said, you know what, let's plan for a long time, and then if it doesn't happen, then okay, well, it just doesn't happen. But if it does happen, then we'll kind of be ready. So we were kind of on alert mode the whole time, and then we were supposed to open, and then we didn't, and the closure was extended. So we just said, forget it. We're just gonna just prepare for, and once that we were supposed to open, maybe thinking about opening, and then we didn't, and then we said we were gonna start preparing for the school years as if we were going to close, just to be on the safe side. So Mr. Thomas is he's been a godsend for me to lean on during this, me being a first year guy and going through this pandemic. It's just been I don't know, it's been different. And I know it's the Lummi Nation School is a great source of strength for the community to lean on. So that's why we're in there. Well, I'm there every day, and just to make sure that they get those. Oh my God, really? I gotta turn this off. Sorry about that. So we're getting that food out weekly. We give about 4,000 meals a week out, and I know that's vital to some of our families because I don't know where they'd be without them. So that's my main focus, is to make sure that those meals get out, because it's just an important. Because if you're used to that, I mean, we have some low income families, and they're used to having those meals, and it makes a big difference when you don't have them. As far as education, as the work is going, we have several different delivery methods. Our 712 students are getting work through Schoology, and if for those who have, well, all of them have devices, but then some of them don't have internet at home. So the ones who don't have access to the internet, we have paper packets, and sometimes we deliver them, sometimes they come pick them up. So it's just any way we can get work to the kids, we do. We have a communications group that is their sole. We have, because we have some paraeducators that don't have anything to do. We have some security people that, they're not coming in the building every day. So we have repurposed them, and their whole mission is to call families weekly, see if they are getting their lessons, see if they need any help. So we're just kind of, I don't want to say winging it, but you come across a problem, you try to fix it. My door is always open. People, sometimes because we don't have a receptionist in the building. It's a small school district. So sometimes I'm answering the phone. I had to have the school phone transferred to myself. So sometimes I'm answering the phone. Sometimes uh, our gym teacher's answering the phone. So we're just trying to make sure that we're accessible to the community. And I just think that's really important. So those are our main focus. Um, and like I said, there's no pandemic playbook. So it's like every day is a new day and a new challenge, and we're just glad to be of service. As far as graduation goes, because I'm not a native person, but when I went to my first native graduation, and it might sound corny, but just you kind of feel that energy and you feel that power, and it's like me being a person of color, I'm sitting there thinking like, what kind of traditions that I could be missing out on if I could have my roots. So it's nice working at the Lummi Nation. So that first graduation was just powerful. So when we talked about graduation this year, it was like, we know we're closed, but we're going to have a graduation no matter if it's August or if it's in January. Um, and we talk to the kids and they want to have that traditional graduation ceremony. So we're going to do that. But we just decided actually today to have a virtual graduation, and we're still working on the dates. So as soon as we get that confirmed, we will get that out to the community. So yeah, that's where we are with graduation.
Awesome. Mr. Villers, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for taking care of our Lummi children and taking care of the food needs and yeah, any words of encouragement. Linda Quinn made it clear, and I think our kids need to hear it too, that it's important to get protein, water, fruit. This doesn't count as fruit, jelly beans. Just because Pepsi's got lots of water in it doesn't mean it replaces water. And Doritos don't count as a vegetable. Corn. Can you share a little bit about the importance of diet and exercise inside the house if they have to, or out in the front yard, or can you share some encouraging words on that?
Yeah, I can do that. Since I was the track coach for so long, and it was still kind of up in the air if I was going to be able to coach this year or not. I was going to probably pass that off to my assistants, but still be the figurehead. So what I've been kind of doing is talking to the community, because there's a Lummi Nation track and field page, and I've kind of made a challenge for myself and I'm talking to them on that. I made a goal of 90 seconds to run the 400 meters in. That's extremely slow, but for somebody as big as I am. So I have put that challenge out to the Lummi Nation community through the Lummi Nation Track and Field Facebook page, and I'm talking to them regularly about exercise and the importance of staying active, especially during this time. And I'm telling them that I'm doing it around the track because I'm at work and there's nobody here, but there are safer places that you can have be safe a distance from people and still get exercise, whether it's exercising. If you got a 2-level house, maybe you can run up and down the stairs, or if you got a hill in your backyard, maybe run up the hill, or if you have access to a jump rope. There are many different ways you can exercise when you're at home and do it safely. And if you don't I tell my kids all the time, if you learn how to exercise and take care of yourself now, when you get older and you get a little heavy, you'll know how to take that weight off. So it's definitely, I'm gonna send this message out to my students. Just be safe and be as active as you can and eat healthy, but stay away from crowds and just stay close to home.
Thank you. I was asked to share a few words, I think it was 4 years ago at Lummi Nation School for graduation, and just talking to yourself, talking to Bernie, talking to Coach Toby, talking to Sandman, I'm always taken back to my childhood and going to Lummi Tribal School out in Marietta, and just how much it's changed, and how great of a job you guys are doing, and how great of a job the past leaders have done to blaze the trail to get us to where we are. Thank you for your work and your frontline work, Kevin, and thank you to your team. Thank you to all of your staff and all of the students for being safe and practicing that safe distancing, and really thinking about the elders and everyone else, the vulnerable during these times. It's not just about us, it's everyone else who are vulnerable. So thank you for your work, and thank you for your efforts, and you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Aishka, hands go up to you. Thank you very much for looking after our students. If President Guillory is still on, I wanted to circle back and give him the opportunity. You wanted to share a few words on commencement and what's in store for next year, possibly, Mr. Guillory?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I again apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm on my phone now, but yeah, I wasn't sure. I guess I didn't want to take up too much time in my earlier comments, but I also just want to briefly give an update on our commencement, similar to what Linda and Kevin mentioned. So we're going to move forward with our commencement is Friday, June 19th, and so we're proposing a virtual commencement, and so that's really new. But as a pre-step to that, we wanted to ask our seniors, I guess, our graduating students, those who are on track to earn a 2-year or a bachelor's degree. And so we had a meeting with them last week, had an opportunity to meet with them, and then also we sent out a survey and asked for their feedback and input. And so they're understanding how we're going to move forward with the virtual commencement, and because there were several colleges and universities that are on a semester system, and we're on a quarter system, and so we have the benefit of being a little bit later, where many other colleges and universities are scheduled to have their commencement in early May. So we can have a chance to research and watch how other institutions are doing it, but most likely it will be pre-recorded. Not sure if it's going to be live, but I think there's going to be key elements that's going to be pre-recorded. So I just wanted to make that announcement. We're sticking with the June 19th. Again, there were discussions about moving it to August or maybe next year, but just the uncertainty. But the main thing, though, is we still want it to be as memorable and impactful, and we don't want this experience to lessen the meaningfulness for this huge milestone for our graduates. So, and in terms of encouragement, I would encourage our students to pray, and pray in your own way, to meditate. And we know that each of our communities, our tribal people, have their own way of teachings that we learned from our ancestors, elders. And so growing up on the Nez Perce Reservation, I often draw upon my teachings of my grandparents and my parents, my loved ones. And so I would just encourage students to remember the importance of prayer, and also to use wisdom, drawing upon, again, the teachings from the ancestors and the Creator. And also to know, just from a historical perspective, that our tribal communities are resilient. We're survivors, of course, being a guest of the Lummi Nation, survivors of the Great Flood. And so it's a similar story to tribal people. So we just draw on that. And one of my favorite words is fortitude. And fortitude really describes what it means to be brave, to be calm, uncomplaining when experiencing something unpleasant and painful. And we're fighting an enemy, an invisible enemy, as they say, COVID-19. But it's important and also to show compassion and to be patient with one another. And lastly, our faculty and staff did a really good idea to similar to what you're offering, Jay, and what Linda and Kevin were saying is we want to encourage our students. And so they created a montage and challenged our faculty and staff to create share pictures of what it's like being at home in a word of encouragement. And they created a montage that was sent out to a mass email to our students. And so I credit to my children. They came up with these here, hashtag faith, courage, and strength, hashtag challenge. We don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. Hashtag persevere, continue a course of action, even in the face of difficulty. And then hashtag grit, courage and resolve, strength of character. And of course, I just give a big shout out to Northwest Indian College, hashtag NWIC. And just want to let the students in the community know that we're in this together, and we're going to emerge stronger as a result of this. So just say again, Katsiya, thank you.
Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for leading our students through these times of uncertainty, being the leaders that we need. You're in the right place at the right time, and you are the ones that are supposed to be there. And thank you for that. Thank you for doing the best you can. As Linda stated earlier, it's not perfect, but we are doing the best we can, and you guys indeed are. And in our language, we say "Estitumson." We are doing the best we can, and you and your team are doing a great job. Thank you for getting food out to the students, to the community. Continue to educate, creating solutions and opportunity through technology to continue to educate. Mr. Villers, you mentioned something earlier about going to your first graduation and experiencing that. And really, when you put that into perspective, I had the opportunity. I don't have good internet at home. I live on a part of our reservation where we don't have access to good internet, so I have satellite, and it's a challenge. But we were able to watch Indian Horse, and I thought a lot about our chief, Salik, and when I watched that, because we might think it's about hockey, which it is about a sport, but also it's the truth about the boarding school experience that our people faced all throughout this country and in Canada. And I know Sadie's mom and dad talk about this quite often, about truth and the history there. But really, when you think about going to a graduation at Lummi Nation School or at the Northwest Indian College, and one of our students are graduating, think about generations. Myself, my mother is Doreen and Mike Julius, Doreen Lane. My grandparents were Vernon Lane and Nancy Solomon. That's 3 generations. And it was that generation and their parents' generation that experienced the boarding schools. And their parents spoke the language, and that was their first language, and they were brought up by pre-contact parents. And it really puts it into perspective to gain a better understanding of the pride and the accomplishment of our youth and our children and our grandchildren of reaching and achieving that goal to become educated. And I'm thankful for our elders who always stress the importance of getting educated, but not at the expense of who you are. Number one is who we are, where we come from, our culture, our names, our history, and our who our ancestors were. So what a great conversation. Thank you guys. Any of the Kevin or Justin or Linda, Dan, you guys have any final words before we move on to the highlight of the show, Sadie, and then we're going to close with our wonderful friend, Miss Linda Mapes. You guys have anyone want to share? Thank you again. Haishka. So moving on, we are going to call upon Sadie Olsen, White Swan Environmental co-founder. Sadie, welcome again, and thank you for the opening song. And we're going to ask you to share another song at the end of the show. I really loved what you said, because I tend to take the same approach myself, whether it's life challenges, whether I'm going through the worst storm of my life. At the time, I try to focus on the positive, and I don't know exactly what it is. I can't give you a reason for that, but trying to focus on the positive. And you said that earlier when we were doing some technical, making sure we were sound technically, and everything was good. And I loved what you said, and thank you for sharing that. And really hope you can share a little bit about the positive and how you're focusing on the positive in uncertain times. And then obviously a little bit on White Swan Environmental and the wonderful work you guys do for our history, for our honoring our ancestors, our culture, our homeland, our salmon. All the work you do is wonderful work. So thank you so much, and the floor is yours.
Hi, Shka. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you because I have taken so many great notes and seen how your processes are working. I think that it's really important to try to foster a growth mindset in this hard time. And that is, like Jay was saying, to focus on the positive, and to try to learn from something. There's always something to learn from. So just to give a few examples of what I like to do to keep myself positive, I like to garden, and recently I have been getting really into native plants, and I have recently got a gooseberry bush and I'm growing some motherwort. I just recently planted that, and more berries, lots of berries. I do yoga, so that's my choice of physical activity. Um, I really think that it's important for our brains to develop through physical activity, and it also helps assist with our mental wellness. As a tribal youth delegate, I think that, I've learned as a tribal youth delegate that there are 4 elements to our health. There's the mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. Physical, spiritual, and emotional. So we have to be taking care of ourselves. I like how Justin mentioned that we all have wisdom and resiliency to look back on that our ancestors have left us with. And we have prayers in our hearts. We each have prayers in our hearts that are meant to be for the betterment of our surrounding community, for our world. These things come to us directly from the Creator, and we are blessed. I want to say hi, Shka, to my mom for always being so honest and truthful. Like you said, she really exemplifies a lot of positive traits that I see within myself and community members see within me. So I'm really grateful. In school, that's something that keeps me busy. Every day I try to do something called time management. So I make a list of what I do for the day, or what I want to do for the day, what I feel like is good for me. That includes doing exercise, drinking water, eating things that are necessities, and also the things that my assignments I need to do, you know, taking self-care, all of those things. And then I make a time scale and I put them on blocks. So I just block out my so that I can and I do it in pencil so that I can erase things. And that helps me stay positive and say, this is what I'm doing. I'm not just sitting here, which I know that I could. I know that I could just sit here if I really wanted to, but I have to make that choice. That's part of the growth mindset, is actively choosing to be positive, actively choosing to try to do something new that's good for you. And then also, yeah, sorry, I have like a stream of
I'm
thoughts.
thank you for sharing. I'm learning something, and maybe it's a sign that I need to work on time management myself. I had a friend call me yesterday, 3 days ago, and he said, and we're talking about some of the work that you're so passionately have been working on for a long time, even as a young lady, and he said, "Hey, We're going to get together, and does 1:30 work for you 2 days from now? Can we schedule a call? And my response was, just call me. I don't make plans. I'm not going to put it in my calendar that we're going to have a phone call then. Just call me. And so I too need to work on my time management. I'm more of a, I think these times are making me more laxed because we're at home so much, working outside, and I could always take a break from working on the fence or working in the yard. But I had a question. You mentioned indigenous plants and gardening and things like that. Have you tried dandelion salad? Someone sent me a picture, what is today, Friday? So maybe Monday or Tuesday, of a dandelion salad. A full-on dandelion with the leaves, and you can eat the dandelion just as is, or you can fry it, or you can deep fry it. I had no idea. What a dandelion is to me as a fisherman is it's telling me and your dad that the halibut are here and they're ready to go harvest. That's what a dandelion is to me. Not something that I consume, but it's an indicator that it's time to go fishing for halibut. Have you
There's so
tried?
many things to learn from native plants. I have eaten dandelion leaves. They were in the Lummi Tribal Health Clinic. In the food, they have fresh foods in the opening of the Lummi Tribal Health Clinic. If you were to ever just walk in there, that they grow in their, like, in the back of their facility. And I saw those. They were in a little bundle, and they taste, I'm not gonna lie, they don't taste very good, but they have vitamin C for you. They have nutrients that you need, and that's the thing about native plants. I think they're what made our people so strong and so resilient, because they're not the tastiest things ever, but our people knew how to make them tasty or to preserve them. And like you said, they're indicators. I'm learning in the Introduction to the Salish Sea class at Whatcom Community College that we had the technology or the mental capacity to understand that the environment only grew at a specific elevation. And so, like, the height that a plant could grow, a certain root could grow, they extended that elevation so that we could grow whole entire garden beds. And I think that's just so amazing. There's so much knowledge within the plants.
You
And
know what I think's amazing?
what's amazing?
You and I are teaching the teachers right now. They probably didn't know any of this. This is great.
We all share wisdom. I learned so much from them, and then
Yeah.
it's always a reciprocal relationship. And that's something that I feel like is really important in Indigenous cultures, is the reciprocal relationships that we have. We don't have that power dominance. It's always about, what strengths do I have? What can I offer to you? What strengths do you have? What can you offer to the community? And everybody has strengths.
Yeah.
Every single person has strengths and gifts that we can offer to the community. And I'm just so grateful. Also, I wanted to say, I want to use my platform as the Tribal Youth Delegate of Lummi on the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board to say that I would recommend, my recommendation is that we should all practice trying to be clean and avoiding alcohol use and avoiding drug use, and just trying to, like, get on that good path so that our future generations have something to look up to, you know? No shame. I'm just saying. I love you all.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I
Go ahead.
tell you about White Swan Environmental and the work we were doing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we practice language revitalization. I recently learned that Swelquin Shkwolowin is the Wickwamitasin word for White Swan Environmental, or Swelquin is White Swan, Shkwolowin is one mind, one heart, one people. And so we felt that way with plants, with the water, with the marine life, everything. We were all one heart, and we all share one heart. So some of the programs that I want to mention that White Swan Environmental is hosting is the Nuhuklami Tenguch, and this is something else that I'm doing for school through Whatcom Community College as a cooperative extension credit, and we're trying to transition to virtual learning. So what we were doing was in-person meetings at Northwest Indian College, and it was really amazing because we are able to bring forward problem that we have or an organization has, and then all collectively work together to find a solution. So it's a methodology that is made for higher educational institutions or community organizations to connect the outside community to the Western. It started at Western Washington University. And I have the pleasure of working for Travis Tennyson, and he's helping teach me everything that he knows. So we're trying to transition to virtual learning. And if anybody on this panel wants to participate in our virtual cohorts, and you want to bring forward a question, then feel free to email me or, Facebook message me, because I'm going to be on Facebook. And then the second program that we have been doing is called the Coast Salish Youth Stewardship Corps. And this is an intertribal program for the youth to learn about the traditional homelands of our people. So as Slackthamish people, our Alalung, or home island, was Orcas Island. And so we would have potlatches from people from Saanich in Canada all the way down to Duwamish in Seattle and all of the little islands in between. And so that's something that we're revitalizing along with our language and our knowledge of native plants, knowledge of native technologies. And right now we were in a small group, but I think it'd be really cool to do some cohorts, or after the COVID, social distancing, everybody. But if we work in our own sections and learn about native plants together, or virtually learn about native plants outside, I think that would be an amazing opportunity. And then the third program that we're doing is something called the Next Gen Language Healers. So that is a program for language revitalization, and I'm working with a PhD student to study the physiological impacts of historical trauma on Indigenous peoples through language revitalization. So that is going to be super exciting, and that's happening in August.
Awesome.
So if you want to learn more about that, whiteswanenvironmental.org is a website that you can look at to learn more about it, or you can feel free to email me or contact me.
Beautiful.
So those are 3 programs: Nukuklamitangu, Coast Salish Youth Stewardship Corps, and the Next Gen Language Healers.
Awesome. Sadie, thank you so much for your work and your passion, and thank you for everything you shared. You're doing a great job. You do an incredible job, and you serve your people. You represent your name well, and thank you for all that work. Thank you for mentioning Orcas Island, San Juan Island, all of our islands, our homeland, and very important places to myself. I love visiting. I love going home. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to call upon you in a little bit, but before we call upon you to share a final song, we're going to have a quick conversation with our friend Miss Linda Mapes from Seattle, the Seattle Times. I often refer to her as a motherly voice during Lummi Nation's many fights, but also some good work, lots of good work. You're just always a great voice. You're an inspiration to writers. You're an inspiration to my daughters. You do great work. You're very passionate. You have a book coming out soon. I can't wait for everyone to be able to read your story, the stories that you've captured, the stories that you've told, the stories that you've witnessed. Just always excited to see your face, always excited to read your stories. Thankful to have you on. Thank you for joining us this evening. Linda, share some words with us. How are you doing? You staying safe, you safe distancing, social distancing, staying healthy.
Yeah, I mean, down here in Seattle, we're a little bit of an epicenter, right? That's we know that, so we are being very careful. I'm doing all my reporting by phone right now, and that's sad because I really like being person to person with people I interact with, but it's necessary and I accept it. I want to mostly just tell you all how incredibly inspired, I feel, by listening to you tonight. We're all different kinds of educators. Dan, through your art, and Sadie, your wisdom is so beyond your years, and Linda, slugging it out there in the Ferndale school district, and you made me cry, just trying to scratch together the money for these essential services that all our kids so desperately need. I can't believe in such a prosperous region that you have to wonder how you're going to pay even for sports in the fall. That just slays me. Kevin, your work there. Wow, what a first year at the Lummi Nation School. Okay, way to dive right into that deep end. And Justin, to hear you and what you're bringing to the Indian College, it's just, frankly, it's so exciting. I've heard of a lot of you, and I know of your institutions, and I wanted to listen tonight just to learn and to meet you, even if it's only over this link. And my heart is filled with inspiration and with joy, honestly, listening to you and feeling the inspiration and devotion that you have for the kids that you serve, and for the public that you serve, whether it's through art or at the Lummi Nation School or at the Indian College or in Ferndale. And gosh, I'm just so grateful for you, honestly. And to listen to Sadie, I feel like, it's going to be okay. If that's what the youth coming up are like, I mean, let's just bring it on. And so I want to just thank you all for everything I learned tonight from each of you, and thank you for your work. I mean, obviously this is a crisis time, but I thank you for being on the front line every single day in the schools and in your art, and Sadie out there with the youth. And gosh, I'm so inspired by you, and I'm grateful for you. I cover the environment for the Seattle Times and tribal communities. I haven't had the privilege of meeting many frontline educators such as yourself, so I really wanted to listen tonight and get a little bit of a sense of what you do every day. And I guess the main thing that came through for me is why you do it, which is really out of love for the community. So I feel very grateful for you. And with that, I just want to say, thank you for what you do. And I feel very blessed to live in this state with you. Keep it up. If there's ever anything we can do at the newspaper to highlight your work, to cheer you on, to sprinkle some stardust on you, gosh, just let me know. I'm easy to find. L. Mapes at seattletimes.com. I cover the environment and tribal communities, but I have a lot of colleagues at the paper. We have a whole team of reporters called the Education Lab. That's what they do all day, every day. And they don't know enough about this very special things you're doing out there in the community. So I'm glad I got to meet you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Always great to see you, and always appreciate your words, and always thankful for your work, and enjoy seeing you. And your hubby's missing tonight. I'm sure he's close by, but thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, and thank you for you. To all the guests, hands up to you again. Linda, Dan, Justin, Kevin, Sadie, Linda. Thank you guys so much for this conversation. Thank you for sharing just a little bit about what's going on with your schools and with our students, and a little bit about the work that you guys are doing, you and your team. Our hands go up to you. Our hands go up to your team. We know it takes a team. We know it takes everyone to pull together in the canoe, and thank you guys for that. Thank you guys for doing the best you can. Estitum Sun, Haishka from Children of the Setting Sun, and one from the Heart. You guys stay safe. Sadie, will you please close us with a song?
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe I would do the flood song, because you mentioned the flood song, and it's what connects all of our people that end with Mish. We're the Slack-to-Mish people of Lummi. We connect to the Samish, the Duwamish, the Stillaguamish, the Suquamish, and all of the Mishes. Okay. Oh, Joshua Welexiem Unattachal Nequilna Seedling Quim Heoe Joshua Welexiem Oh, hey. Oh, hey. Josh will Welexiem. Unattachal Nequilna. Seedling Quim Heoe. Josh will Welexiem. Oh, hey. Oh, hey. Hey. Josh will Welexiem. Unattachal Nequilma. Seedling Quim Heoe. Josh will Welexiem. Oh, hey. Hey. Oh, hey. Josh will Welexiem. Unattachal Nequilma. Seedling Quim Heoe. Josh will Welexiem.
Praise God.
Sadie.
To that song, I mean, we are survivors of the flood. We come from this place. Come here, my natives, and stand strong.
Awesome. Sadie, thank you so much. And I think Linda Mapes just gave you a nickname, and that's Hope. Hope. You are the hope for the future, and you give her hope. You give us hope. Thank you. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your wisdom, and keep up the good work. Stay positive. I know you will. Thank you for being that example of positivity during uncertain times. Haishka. From Children in the Setting Sun Productions, I want to say thank you to Ellie, Bo, John, Mark, Natasha, Bella and Keith, and little Connor, Michelle, Kyla. One from the Heart, thanks you for joining us tonight. You guys stay safe, social distance, stay healthy, and keep sending up prayers for all of us, for the elders, for the children, for our nation. Haishka, thank you.